Fandoms are, well, they're the hot topic of modern generations. Many fandoms finding themselves battling it out over who's better. But what does it all mean? What is a fandom? What makes you a fan? How can you join a fandom? Is fandom and participatory culture identical? And do you have to be a geek or even a nerd to qualify?
Simply speaking, a fan, or rather a fanatic, was originally a person with an excessively single-minded zeal for an extreme religious or political cause. Of course, the term's been adopted. People aren't fans for extreme political or religious reasons, but use the term to show admiration for something.
You can be a fan of almost anything, like films, games, books, TV shows. In one way or another, it's got some kind of story to it. Fandoms are like the new sports teams, and books and films are like the new games.
The reason fandoms are so important is because fandoms allow many people to connect based on one similarity alone, which is a wonderful experience. This connection with others alike themselves is something we crave from an evolutionary standpoint. We are social creatures, and our demands in life are as such to remain connected.
Social media has a big role to play in the world of fandoms. Apps like Tumblr give people the means to share their thoughts with the safety of remaining anonymous. People create their own space through blogs and posts, thus spreading the product that they're a fan of. Facebook and Twitter allow people to share events, create groups, and even meet other fans. This numinous sense that they are a part of something bigger than only one person taking part and making a difference, it plays into our ambitions and our humanity. If not already, this soon becomes a part of one's identity.
Firefly Serenity fans are called browncoats, and fans of Doctor Who refer to themselves as Whovians. And in the anime and Japanese culture, we have the term otaku.
We give ourselves names for being in the fandoms. We make it a part of our title. It slowly becomes part of our self-identity.
Fandoms don't necessarily have to be geeky or nerdy. Geek and nerd culture is in, and fandom is a hype. Geek and nerd are no longer a derogatory term anymore.
A simple way to understand this is to quote Parks and Recreations. Nerd culture is mainstream now, so when you use the word nerd derogatory, that means that you're the one who's out of the zeitgeist. This is seen throughout all of mainstream media. The highest grossing films are sci-fi, comic book genre, and the biggest TV shows right now are the AMC's Walking Dead and HBO's Game of Thrones, which are both hit sci-fi fantasy genres.
It is possible to identify as a geek without being in a fandom, and like vice versa and all that. I think most people are both.
For something to have a fandom, said product needs to grow a great number of fans, and we call this group of fans, obviously, a fandom. Just as in the traditional sense, a kingdom is ruled by a king, king, a fandom is traditionally ruled by fans, fandom.
So I guess that fans have more power within a fandom than arguably creators of the product, like films or whatever that they're fans of. I guess that fandoms have quite a large role to play within modern mainstream media.
Comic-Cons are a place you'll find fandoms congregating, and it's the main reason nerd culture and fandoms are associated together. These groups repeatedly have chances to meet up and share their experiences, not only online, but also in person, creating a sense of unity between them.
Mark Duffett said in his book, Understanding Fandom, a common term used to describe the sense of welcome and strength of common bonds within the fan community is to refer to it as family.
Geek culture can easily fit into the idea of a sub-fandom, yet following Mark Duffett's idea, geek and nerd culture could be an intermediate family. That's part of a larger family.
The word geek can be used to describe one's zest for a subject. Simply saying, I'm geek for this, or I'm geek for that, is a way to say that you're a fan. Whilst the word has connotations of a nerd and geek culture, the term can be used for any subject that anyone is passionate about.
Fandoms and participatory culture aren't the same. One exists without the other, but that doesn't mean the two don't go hand in hand. Fandoms can create many wonders that pass the everyday eye. A perfect example of this would be Serenity, the movie.
So, on September 20th, 2002, 20th Century Fox Television produced a new sci-fi show called Firefly. This show started off with a little fan base and very low views, thus Fox Television cancelled the show. But its short life of just 14 episodes resonated with the fans, and the fan base just grew bigger and united, and they became a fandom.
The fans called themselves the Broncos, and as a fandom, they fought back. What started as letters being sent and a ton of complaints fired at Fox eventually turned into this crowd-funded guerrilla marketing campaign for a conclusion film, Serenity.
For the first time ever, a show that had previously been cancelled had a concluding film, a move that the creators alone could never have completed. Henry Jenkins said in his book, Spreadable Media, that fans react to work that are finished, in the sense they are fully produced, yet fans are not finished with those materials and want to product to express their own ideas. Firefly and Serenity are two excellent examples of fandom as a participatory culture.
So I guess to put it simply, fandoms are powerful because, the fans don't just appreciate, they create. Participatory culture, I guess, runs deeper than pushing for films to be made, so, why not make them yourself?
Fanfiction's one of the biggest outputs fandoms create. They can trend and they're beautifully written, and some of them even become published.
Two successful books, Beautiful Bastard and the more well-known 50 Shades of Grey, are a series that have taken the market by storm. And all were fanfics from the series Twilight. 50 Shades now has 2 movie adaptations to show for it, and the book sells one of the reasons that the UK escaped the recession.
As we all know, 50 Shades of Grey saw record sales that beat Harry Potter and caused an economic boost in the UK.
The Irish Examiner once released an article with information from Anne Summers saying that as a result of 50 Shades of Grey, the sale of metal and leather handcuffs increased by 30%, blindfolds by 60%, whips by 15%, rope ties by 35%, and the sale of jiggle balls rose by 200%.
The Mortal Instruments Shadowhunter series is not similar to the literature classic Harry Potter, yet they started off one and the same. The author Cassandra Clare openly admits the book's history as a fanfic, still containing many inspirations from the Harry Potter series. The Mortal Instruments has 1 movie adaptation and a TV adaptation on Netflix.
After Anna Todd is a novel which started as fanfiction about the band One Direction. 1 billion reads online, and sales later, a movie adaptation has been called for and will be released later in 2017.
The well-known musical, Wicked, features a story of Oz long before Dorothy ever lands. This beautiful musical prequel is work of fan fiction.
I'd say fandoms churn out fan films, fan trailers, and alright, while their work might not be text form, it's still very much fan fiction. Fan films have been made for many different types of fandoms. This includes things like Avatar, The Legend of Aang, Doctor Who, and other original works that have been based on other works. I suppose these films can't be remade to an industry standard, but they are great examples of fandom capabilities.
Will Brooker wrote a book back in 2002 called Using the Force, Creativity, Community and Star Wars Fans. It talks about fan labour and its role in the Star Wars franchise, but the reason I bring it up is simply because the book holds the best definition of fan film.
On one level, fan film is simply a branch of fan fiction and has a very similar relationship to the primary text. A creative departure that stays within a recognisable framework, an experiment that sticks to the accepted rules, filling of gaps that fit within the official narrative.
Fan art and cosplays are examples of participatory culture, and basically it's a way people make a living. Making real, detailed and widespread cosplays have made many famous for their work, like Jessica Negre.
There's substantial money involved in the fan art cosplay business, especially considering how integral cosplay is for fandoms and participatory cultures alike.
Companies can make a lot of money off cosplays along with other merch, and people who have certain channels or accounts on social media, they can make money off what other people like call hobbies.
YouTube is a brilliant example of fandoms at work. There are many YouTubers that are fans of something, many that identify as any fandom.
YouTubers like MacLeod, the Syndicate Project and PewDiePie and many more are all part of the gaming community or fandom, yet as YouTube content creators themselves, they're demonstrating participatory culture.
YouTube content creators have kind of built up this community around themselves, and it seems to be growing into a fandom of its own.
MacLeod often features fan art of himself drawn by fans of him in his videos, meaning that fandom creates fandom. The YouTuber Jake Roper, as a content creator, works with filmmakers and actors alike, and his way into the film industry has been through his fandom-based work in YouTube.
YouTube is one of the connections that we have with our celebrities and idols and stars from our fandoms, and the interactions we have with them is almost parasocial.
They tweet us on Twitter, they friend us on Facebook, they follow us on Instagram, they subscribe to us on YouTube, they add us on Snapchat. It is simply so old-fashioned to not have some sort of connection with our role models.
Definitely one of the biggest misconceptions about fans is that fandom is a relatively new occurrence. That's completely false. Fans have existed as long as fame itself. If there's a reason a person can become positively notorious, then it would be impossible to have no fans. Famous playwrights, politicians, scientists would have all had fans in their respective time periods. Although, of course, I guess the notion of a fandom is a fairly recent one, but definitely not as recent as one would expect.
The word fandom has been used as early as 1903, but only reaching mainstream use in language by the 1950s to the 1980s and onwards. Fandom before recently has been dismissed, marginalized, branded as uncool, and far from hype. This is something Henry Jenkins identified in his book Fans, Bloggers, and Gamers. Exploring participatory culture, he said, a moment when fans were marginal to the operations of our culture, ridiculed by the media, shrouded with social stigma, pushed underground by legal threats, and often depicted as brainless or inarticulate. Jenkins identifies with fans not only academically, but through his own personal experiences and understands the message from all the fandoms. I mean, the first line of the book, on page 1, he says, "Hello, my name is Henry, and I am a fan."
So Teal-Trigg said that fanzines or zines remain hidden, flying beneath the radar of mainstream publishing and its conventions. I'd say production is often irregular and distribution takes place at, places like zine fairs or by word of mouth through independent music shops or bookstores or through the post.
Fanzines weren't particularly ideal economic investments, but they did function well as a means of entertainment and served as effective and discreet communications with a fandom.
Fandoms and normal groups of fans are distinguishable. Like, there are quite a lot of similarities between the two, but they're not the same at all. I think the best analogy for it would probably be a fan base for a large band.
Fans have large fan bases, yet I wouldn't necessarily go to a concert to meet fans of other fans of the same band, meaning that this group of fans isn't actually a fandom. Ultimately, a fandom is a fan group that share a connection, more than just a common interest, but the empathetic connections between one another, similar to that of a sports team.
The sense of camaraderie is what makes any group of fans a fandom.
Fandoms have been recognised as a powerful force to the extent that companies have taken advantage of cheaper campaigns by utilising fan user-generated content.
Definitely, in a way, fandoms come together not through their materialistic origins, but more through emotional common grounds. We're very social creatures, and thus we crave this social interaction, these emotional connections that can only really be formed through shared experiences, and the way we get those shared experiences from fandoms. It only makes sense that we want to share our passions with those akin to ourselves, and those akin to ourselves in this state are those that share the same qualities in fandoms.
I promise this or not.